Hello aspirants, welcome to another session of the daily newspaper analysis. This video is brought to you by the Gurudev Academy. My name is Ashwin. Let's look at today's newspaper. Firstly, we look at this online lending apps. Okay, there has been an article. It has become a very important issue because there has been few issues that are related to it. There are few problems that are being causing. Last year, if you were aware, there were few suicidal deaths that happened due to the online lending platforms. So we will look at it. First of all, we will understand what this digital lending is. So digital lending, as you can see the definition here, it consists of lending through web platforms or mobile apps by taking advantage of technology for authentication and credible credit assessment. Okay, so what generally happens is when you want a loan, okay, nowadays what is happening is there are a lot of online apps that are available in Play Store. So through these apps, the app will verify your documentation online as well. There is something called as digital signature that will be available in these apps, and through this what is happening is they are dispensing the loans. Fine. So what are the issues that are there? First of all, we will look at the significance. Okay, what is the significance of digital lending? So here, the digital lending here is promoting financial inclusion. By financial inclusion, we mean that every person is included in the formal banking system. The government had launched this JAM Trinity, okay, JAM Trinity, that is Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and Mobile. Jan Dhan Yojana was mainly launched for having zero balance bank account for every citizen of this country, okay. So here, this online lending platforms as well, they are promoting what? Financial inclusion. Secondly, it reduces borrowing from informal channels. If you are aware, in rural areas, there are some people called as money lenders. Okay, so when people borrow from money lenders, what is the disadvantage? The disadvantage is that the interest rates are generally high. Okay, some of these money lenders take disadvantage of the conditions, poor conditions there of the rural people. So secondly, we are reducing the borrowing from informal channels. Thirdly, time saving. This is the main aspect. Okay, whenever digital, when it is related to digital, anything that we do, what is the main advantage? The main advantage is it reduces the time there. Okay, so when this time saving is there, 30 to 50% of digital loans dispense is reduced here. Okay, so those are the significance here. When we look at the issues, okay, this is the main area where we have to focus. Issues. Firstly, unauthorized digital lending platforms. There was a report published last year by the RBI which says that out of the 1,100 apps, digital lending apps that are there on the Play Store, 600 of them are not authorized. Okay, they are duping people. That is one of the issue here. Secondly, excessive rate of interest and additional hidden charges. Okay, so if you are aware, the rate of interest are very high on these lending platforms. Fine. So this is one of the issue. Thirdly, unacceptable and high-handed recovery. Many of the complaints that the RBI received about these online lending platforms is that the abuse that they have to face when the recovery of the loans is happening. Okay, last year only when the deaths were happening in Telangana, in the state of Telangana, the main issue there was the abuse that these online lending platforms were not only the harassment, the verbal abuse, but there was a lot of mental harassment as well. So because of this only, this is one of the issues that is plaguing this digital lending platforms. Lastly, another issue is misuse of agreement to access data in mobile phones. See, again here, one of the disadvantage of your digital platforms, any digital platforms, is the risk of your data, risk of your personal data. Here as well, in the this online lending platforms, this is one of the issue here. So what is RBI doing here? RBI here has been it has formed this working committee group. It was formed last year only and the report has been submitted. The working group has given some of the recommendations. When we look at it, one of the important recommendations is that the digital lending platforms engaged as agents shall be directed to disclose upfront to the customers the name of the banks, NBFCs on whose behalf they are interacting with him. So What this means is that, so consider this is a online lending platform here, and you are the customer. Okay, so here it is, okay, it is important, okay, it is mandated now from the RBI that this online lending platform has to show to the customer from which bank they are, from which NBFC they are contacting you. Okay, that is compulsory here. One more important thing that you have to note here is this one: immediately after sanction but before execution of the loan agreement, the sanction letter shall be issued by the borrower to the borrower on the letterhead of the bank concerned. This is very, very important. This legitimizes the loans. Okay, so when, for example, some of the important banks that are there in India, under its letterhead, when the loan agreement is given, what will happen is the loan stands legitimate. There is no chances of fraud or anything. Okay, those are the few of the key recommendations that are given here. When we look at the article, okay, when we look at the article, so here this article is mainly about the complaint by the Telangana government to the RBI. Okay, and here when we look at it, here again the issues mentioned here in the second para, that many loan apps exist on the Google Play Store against RBI guidelines. Okay, that is one of the issue we have studied. Then they are not disclosing the names of the associated NBFCs. Okay, so this is kind of fraud that is happening in the online lending platforms. So we will look ahead what the action RBI will take here. Okay, in the coming days, maybe the RBI will take some action. We will do this again. Okay, then moving ahead. Okay, so here we are going to do 3 editorials today. All the editorials are very important. So here, first of the editorial that we are going to talk about is the scam. Okay, the banking scam that is happening. The scam fault line is damaging our Indian banking system. It mentions about NPA and what the steps have to be taken. First of all, we will look at what NPA is. NPA here, that is non-performing asset. Okay, non-performing asset is when the principal on, okay, the interest, okay, the interest payments and installments are due for more than 90 days. Okay, interest payments and installments are due for more than 90 days. Then those type of loans are considered as non-performing assets. Okay, non-performing assets. Please remember that non-performing assets are different than bank scams. Okay, in bank scams, the duration has exceeded more than 90 days, but the loan payment is out of question. The loan recovery is out of question here. But here, when an NPA is there, the NPA can be transferred, okay, to a bad bank. There is something called as bad bank. Okay, this was discussed in one of the budget speeches 2021, I guess, where all the NPAs are going to be taken up by the government, and the government is going to establish something called as bad bank, and and the government is trying to reconstruct those loans. Okay, that is different. NPA is different, and your banking frauds and banking scams are different. Okay, and here in the first part of the article talks about the new scam that has happened. Okay, it is related to the Diwan Housing Finance Corporation Limited. Okay, Diwan Finance Housing Corporation Limited. Okay, so here again we have to note one thing that is very important, is that the banking system, okay, of any country is the backbone of its economy. Okay, so when banks lose money in such scams, what is happening is the common man also loses his money, because ultimately what is the money that is stored? Okay, which is the money that is stored in this bank? It is our money. It is the citizens' money that is stored. Okay, so banks are very important. And then what are the impacts of NPA? Okay, it is very important. Impacts of NPA is that, first of all, there is insufficient funds for lend. When bank is lending loans here, and if there is no recovery, then what happens is ultimately the funds with the bank go on decreasing. Okay, so there is insufficient funds to lend. Ultimately, what will happen here? There is less investment, and in turn there is increased unemployment. Okay, sorry, there is increased unemployment. So these all become a common problem for our country. Secondly, there is forced to increase interest rates to maintain profit margin. See, when there is high NPA with banks, The banks have less profit margins there. The banks are earning very less when there is low loan recovery. So here there is when there is low profit margins, the banks generally increase the interest rates. In this article, there is one important fact that is given about the NPA projections, that how much NPA will be present in India, in Indian banks by September 2022. It is projected that by September 2022, there is 8.1% of total assets of NPA. Okay, so this is very bad, because higher the NPA, the bad news, the worst news for the Indian banking system. Now, okay. So these are the frauds. Okay, so normally in any banking system, why does the frauds happen? The frauds happen mainly because of the management, the outsiders, insiders, as well as outsiders and insiders. Both are responsible here. Here you have to note that the examples that have happened in our country. Okay, there are so much banking scams that have happened over the past 4-5 years, that these all are the reasons why it is happening mainly. Okay, if we take the example of the PNB, okay, PNB, Mehul Choksi, okay, and Nirav Modi, mainly what was the fault is both the management as well as the insiders. Okay, in the PNB, your Punjab National Bank, both the management as well as the insiders were very much responsible here for the scam that happened at that time. So another important fact that is given here is that according to RBI, 70% of these bad loans are in corporate sector. See, our corporate sector right now is struggling very bad because after the post-pandemic period, as well as because of the Russian war, there is a lot of stress in the market. Fine. So culminated with that, according to RBI, 70% of these bad loans are in corporate sector. So what are the steps that has to be taken? What steps have to be taken here to get out of this? We have been discussing the issue of NPA from so long. It has been 2 to 3 years that this in this country NPA has become a major issue. Government is trying so many things in this banking sector to get us out of this NPA problem. But still there are few steps that have been recommended in this article. We'll look at it one by one. So steps to be taken. First of all, cautious while lending to companies that have taken huge loans abroad. Okay. So when a company is taking huge loans from abroad and when it is paying domestically, there is a chance that this loan may turn into a scam. This may happen that this may be some shell company or some other company where it is artificially established, and this money, that loan we are taking internally to pay the loan abroad, what may happen is the money can be laundered out of this country. This is one of the problem. Secondly, tightening of audit system of banks. Okay, sometimes the banks, they are not auditing a company properly before giving them loans. Okay, this is one of the major issue that is happening. Previously as well, RBI has been recommending to these banks to tighten its audit system, to improve its audit system. But still, instead of all these things, we have another major bank scam that has happened in India. Thirdly, PSBs. PSBs, we mean public sector banks, should set up internal rating agency. Okay. So we have private rating agencies that are there which rate companies. Okay, so if a company is rate higher, if a company is rated better, then the chances of it getting loans are easy. But if the company is not performing well, if it is defaulting on its loan payment, then the rating will be very low or bad, and at that time the loan facility is not easily available for them. So many of these public sector banks, what they do is they depend on the private agencies for the rating of any company, and sometimes these ratings are flawed. These ratings may be biased in in favor of any company. So what the article says here is that the public sector banks should set up their own rating agencies. Then management info system. Here, there is a need to establish management information system which will give information to all these banks about how the loan environment is present in India and which companies should be recommended for higher amount of loans. Fourth, CIBIL score. You all are aware about the CIBIL score. CIBIL score mainly depends on the repayment of any loans here. If the repayment is very late, then the CIBIL score will be very low. Then here it says that CIBIL score should be evaluated. Okay, CIBIL score should be evaluated, and it has been recommended by the RBI as well. Lastly, it says here about the use of artificial technology. Okay, artificial intelligence technology here. See, one of the major drawbacks of using artificial intelligence technology in the case of banks is that it will only measure the quantitative analysis. Okay, it will only give the quantitative analysis but not the qualitative analysis. Okay, so what may happen when we are using artificial intelligence to monitor, okay, or to evaluate any one, okay, evaluate any one of the company, what may happen is it will only give about the quantitative aspects of that company, but it will not determine the quantitative. Hence it has been recommended in this article that RBI has to be proactive in monitoring such types of frauds and the banking scams that are happening in this country. Okay, moving on, this was in news yesterday. The Prime Minister unveiled national emblem atop of new parliamentary building. Okay, this was in news yesterday. There is a new parliamentary building that is coming up. So national emblem has been unveiled there. There are few important facts that you have to make a note out of this article. First of all, who designed this latest national emblem? It was designed by Sunil Diore and Lakshman Vyas. Okay, as well as you have to look at the facts of national emblem. What are the major facts of national emblem? Firstly, the national emblem is adopted from where? It is adopted from the Ashokan capital at Sarnath. Okay, there is one difference between Ashoka capital as well as the national emblem that we have adopted. That is, the Ashoka capital, it has abacus, okay, lotus abacus, which is not adopted in our national emblem. Okay, so please look at it. Please make a mark out of it. It may be it is a potential prelims question. So looking at the various facts here about our national emblem. Firstly, the national emblem was adopted on 26 January 1950 here, okay, and then there are 4 animals on it present, that is horse, bull, elephant and lion. The slogan Satyameva Jayate is adopted from where? It is adopted from Mundaka Upanishad, as well as this national emblem was designed by who? It was designed by Dinanath Bhargava. Okay, these are the few of the important facts. I have work for you. One of the things that you have to note here, make a note, is that when did national flag got adopted? Who designed it? When did our national song got adopted? Who designed it? When did our national flag as well? Okay, who designed it and when it got adopted? You can arrange them in a chronological order, and then it may be a potential prelims question here. Okay. Then we look at this Why the World Needs Peace, written by Shashi Tharoor. There are few editors that you cannot skip when it comes to Hindu, and Shashi Tharoor is one of them. You have to read the editorial whenever there is an editorial written by him. Then this article, mainly in the first section of this article, it talks about the ongoing war. It gives us the course of the war, what is happening in the war, and it also gives us a solution to the peace given by the famous political scientist Henry Kissinger. Okay, so he has given some solutions. The solutions are not relevant because those solutions will not work. We will just look at the thing, that is, why should there be peace in Ukraine? What are the implications of peace in Ukraine to the world? Okay, so when we look at it, firstly, the world is already suffering from something called as double whammy. That is, we had COVID infections. Because of COVID infections, there was lockdown and disruption of supply chain. Okay, disruption of supply chain. So previously we have already been suffering to this. Because of this, the world economy is suffering so much. So the world does not need another crisis right now. Okay, that is why it becomes important that the war has to end, and the war has to end peacefully here. Secondly, there is major increase in energy prices and Indians are feeling the brunt out of it. Mainly the petrol price and the diesel price are rising, are already skyrocketed right now. Hence, there is major increase in energy prices. One more important thing is these Ukraine and Russia are energy source of few of major energies. Like for example, we can consider the case of Russia here. Okay, Russia is a major source of petroleum for Europe. And when the prices of these raw materials rise, what will generally happen is the price of end products will also rise here. That is why it is important that the peace is brought in this region. Thirdly, 2/3 of world's wheat export is affected, mainly Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine is a major producer and exporter of wheat. Since the war has started, what is happening is there is a shortage of food supplies. Okay. Nextly, India. When it comes to India, 75% of sunflower seeds and oil, we were importing it from Ukraine. Since the war is going on, the import has been cut down completely and India is suffering to import sunflower seeds and oil from other countries right now. Okay. So these, and then fifth one we have already looked at it, that is inflation. The inflation is not only in India, the inflation rates are rising everywhere. Okay, in every country there is rise of inflation. We have already done this inflation in US in our first video. Do check it out. So inflation in US is causing problems. Inflation in the world is causing major problems in all the major economies as well as in world trade. Thirdly, supply chain disruption. See, inflation, by supply chain we mean that for a product, okay, for a product to be a finished good, it has to have raw materials. Okay, this product is a combination of all the raw materials. Like if we consider mobile phones, the screens, okay, your processors, the battery, these all are what? These are all are the components which together make a mobile phone. See, with the supply chain disruption, we mean that this supply, okay, it does not, for a mobile phone, the supply does not come from one country. The supply has to come from so many countries. If there is inflation in any one of these countries which is supplying us with major products, the whole finished product will not be finished, the whole product will not be available on time here. Fine. So supply chain disruption is causing major problems in the world trade here. Lastly, the DG, the Directorate General of WTO, that is World Trade Organization, has issued one statement which brings out the true essence, the true picture of what is happening in the Ukraine. According to the DG, that is Director General, they say that the war is not only causing human suffering, it is damaging the global economic system. Fine. See, we have already had this COVID infections. Because of COVID infections, the world trade has suffered a lot. Okay. The world trade, which was around 3% at that time, the total GDP of the world trade, which was 3% before COVID infection, it is hovering around 1.52% right now. Okay, and this is a huge difference. This is a huge number. So it becomes very important that we bring peace to this region. We end this war. The war is not only affecting the people in the region of Ukraine and Russia, but it is also affecting everyone in this world. Fine. Then coming to the last article here talks about the comprehending public health. Okay, it talks about public health here, mainly the achievements of Tamil Nadu region. Okay, see, on every article I have mentioned, it is related to which this paper. Okay, in UPSC mains, it is about which it comes under which questions, comes under which topics I have mentioned it. You also mention it. Okay, then here, first of all, we look at what is health. Okay, when we look at health, the definition of health includes two aspects, that is subjective as well as objective. When we look at subjective aspect here, health is about physical, mental as well as social well-being. Okay, and when we look at objectively, health is absence of disease. Okay, objectively, it is absence of disease. When we look at what is public sector health and public health, okay, this health, okay, We are looking at objectively right now. We are looking at objectively in this article. We are studying absence of disease in this article. So when we look at health in India, it is mainly in two types, that is your public sector health as well as public health. Public health is what? Public health is your disease prevention. Okay, it looks after before the disease. It does not, it is all about your surveillance and data collection. Okay, and through this data what is happening is they are going to analyze if there is going to be outbreak of some disease. And when we look at public sector health is mainly your hospital system, National Disaster Management Authority. Okay, so these public sector health is after the disaster has struck. Okay, it is after and this is before public health. Then what is public health mainly including? The public health is mainly including disease surveillance as well as epidemiology. Okay, they both are the main component of public health here. What is disease surveillance? Disease surveillance is real-time info. Okay, so let's consider the example of COVID only. So during COVID, we had disease surveillance system, that is CoWIN, that was established. CoWIN was a platform that was established. What was CoWIN used at that time? CoWIN platform was used mainly for real-time info about where are clusters being established, about the spread of infection, how the infection is spreading and all. Okay, then epidemiology, it will analyze the data and facilitate planning. Okay, so it will analyze whatever the data is being gathered, it will analyze and it will facilitate planning. See, our COVID strategy at the start, it failed because we were not strong in this department, that is epidemiology. Okay, if we were aware of epidemiological aspects, if we had that positive epidemiology, then there would be less deaths in COVID times. Then see, we will look at the history of public health in India. During British Raj, it was compulsory for every doctors to report 24 communicable diseases. Okay, communicable diseases, it was compulsory for the doctors to report. But post independence, okay, the disease surveillance was sidelined because the we had a new ministry that was established, that is Ministry of Health. See, when during British time, when it was compulsory for the doctors to inform the higher authorities about it, what used to happen? There used to be surveillance, planning and prevention that used to happen. But once the post-independence, once disease surveillance was sidelined, the government started focusing on what? Public sector health and not public health. Okay, the government was focusing, every government in India was focusing on public sector health and not on public health. Here comes the angle of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has been instrumental here to eliminate smallpox. It is the first state to eliminate smallpox, guinea worm, polio and measles. Why? Because it became a national leader in systematic data collection, analysis, disease prevention, outbreak control and credible recording of causes of death. Okay, so when such system is available, what will happen is it will help for the government to plan properly, to plan ahead, to plan during the outbreak as well as to what has to be done to stop the spread of the disease as well as to cause less death. Okay, such data is very, very useful. See, we had one case during the COVID outbreak time that some of the states in India were not publishing the right data on death. Okay, so when such data are hidden, it does not help in proper planning in our public health management. Fine. So there is one more system in Tamil Nadu, that is Nadi. Nadi is it is a monthly bulletin. Okay, it is a monthly bulletin which publishes health information. See, when such systems are established, okay, like Tamil Nadu can be a role model in public health. When such systems are in place, what will happen is there is effective management of public health infrastructure. By public health infrastructure, we also mean by hospitals. See, during COVID times, we had this, that we did not have enough beds, we did not have enough oxygen cylinders because there was no timely data dissemination. Okay, the hospitals were not getting data on time about how much the infection is spreading or where all the clusters are happening. Okay, so when Tamil Nadu, okay, taking role model of Tamil Nadu, when every state or when the center can implement such systems, it will be very beneficial for the overall health of this, overall health of every citizen of this country. Fine. So this is all about today's newspaper. You can follow us on these social media handles, that is YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, as well as Facebook. Have a nice day. Thank you.